treat that, which is the same treatment that we're using for drug and alcohol, or the same one that I was using for TCAP. Why wouldn't I want to take those?
That's what Smart Recovery is based in.
Right. It's all
Cognitive
CBT.
behavioral therapy.
Or if there was someone who occasionally I would go in and you get a vibe, and you can't deny someone on a vibe, but whenever I would get like a bad vibe on someone, I'd like look into them more, and I'd find that they had a violent history, even though they had never been charged with or convicted of a violent crime in the past. If you look at their past, they had private attorneys, and that ag assault got dropped down to a simple, but 6 different times. If I saw like a pattern of violence, I wouldn't take them, because you got to put them in with Keenan House. You were in there with what, like 95 other people, close quarters.
Close quarters.
Yeah.
There was some rooms had 14 people in there, so you're talking 7 bunk beds.
Is this Keenan House on 6th Street in Allentown?
Yes.
Yeah. I was actually going to work there one time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's different, and even that place has changed a lot too. I still have a lot of people that I stay in contact that still work for Treatment Trends. They're actually doing away with the therapeutic community style of things, and they're changing their whole treatment modality out there. One of the other things too that they're looking into is they're going to become an MAT facility, which is going to be another episode that we're going to talk about some MAT.
And I think they should.
Medical assisted therapy treatments. And I tell you what, there's a lot of interesting information on that. I don't want to get too involved in it here today, but there's more and more treatment facilities that are heading down that road,
and it's
crazy
the things that they're using to treat the things that they're treating,
and we're not talking about just going to like a methadone clinic and getting your dose daily. We're talking about true MAT where you're on a medication and you're also being assisted by some sort of counseling or therapy, some form of treatment. That's a little bit more than just, like I said, going to get your dose.
Going to get your dose, yeah.
Right. And which was, I think, was like the initial intention behind methadone and Suboxone clinics, but there was no follow through for it, and I think they're starting to find a way to actually follow through and use these medications for good, and we'll see what happens.
Well, I think they're getting more funding because of the overdoses and the
Right.
opioid crisis, which I hate saying opioid crisis because we have an addiction crisis.
Right.
How many heroin addicts do you know that have switched over to meth?
Absolutely.
I know people that used to be
meth. I know people that used to be heroin addicts that are now just alcoholics. They just spend their time drunk.
Absolutely.
Like I see it all the time.
So if you don't treat the underlying addiction, what's the point? And what happened, I think, with the old school methadone clinics like State Line and that sort of thing was one counselor would have over 100 clients.
Right, and you can't keep up with them.
Yeah, there's no possible way that you can say, okay, did he come to...
You're literally doing a 2-minute check-in, and okay, yep, you took your dose today. Okay, I'll see you next week.
My neighbor actually works at one of the methadone clinics out there, and she said it's
crazy.
It's bad.
It's crazy.
But and
I don't want that job.
To bring this back into what we're going to be talking about today, the prison reform, and I think with the treatments and the MATs and everything that's changing over the last couple of years and that are taking a drastic turn this upcoming year, 2020, is all going to help with the way things are done in prisons. I think it's going to change the recidivism rates because now we're treating the underlying factors like addiction and mental health, and now these people are not committing crimes to sustain their lifestyles, and they're going to be going to jail less and less. Is there going to still be crime? Absolutely. We are never going to eliminate crime whatsoever.
But crime rates are coming down.
They are dropping. Yes.
They've been coming down.
Yes.
But the prison rates are still going up.
Right. So
it's a money maker. It's just a way for somebody to keep making money off of somebody.
What were the numbers on the amount of people that I want to look up the numbers between the amount of people that the United States has locked up compared to every other country combined?
It's United States.
Like the United States has like more people. Wait, you got the info?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I do. Despite 5% of the global 5% of the global population, the United States has 25% of the prison population.
Wait a minute, wait.
Ridiculous.
So out of all the other countries in the world, the United States has 25% of all their people in prison.
Of all the people in the world that are incarcerated,
25% is in our country.
25% of those individuals are in the United States.
Holy shit!
So if you think
And
about,
I bet you.
You have a number?
And I think it makes up. Did you say it makes up like 5% of the world's population is
we
in
have
our prisons?
we have 5% of the world's population.
Okay, we have.
We
5%.
only have 5% of the world's
United States.
population.
Okay. Right.
But of the world's prison population, we have 25%. So that's
insane.
absolutely that's insane.
And how many of them do you think are just like nonviolent offenders?
How many of those do you think are there's people who owe child support, bro?
Right.
They built a prison down in Northampton just for fucking child support. 90% of people in there are from child support.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I was
That's
there.
a problem.
Right. And if you look at so the prison policy, 2018 compared Pennsylvania to NATO countries and the United States in general. In general, the United States had 698 out of 100,000 population. Pennsylvania, 725. So if you look, like the next closest country to us is the United Kingdom with 139.
That's like 5 times the amount on any level. That's ridiculous.
Absolutely. And if you think about countries like Russia, China, I mean, those are heavily populated countries.
I think
India.
the United States needs to take their advice and the way they do things, because over there, their crime rate is very, very low.
Well,
They don't
depends
mess
on where you
around.
go. It
You
depends on where
steal,
you
they'll
go.
cut your fucking fingers off.
right. No.
I mean,
Well, I
it's,
don't
still
know.
places that chop
You know
people's
what? Go
hands
ahead and
off.
put me
Yeah.
in jail then, because I don't want to keep my fingers.
an eye for an eye. I think and it's an eye for an eye. I truly believe that.
Yeah.
You steal, cut their fucking fingers off.
Was that eye for an eye though? Because I feel like if I'm stealing, maybe you should just steal something from me. I think that'd be a little bit more even.
Right.
I think, or is that just self-preservation?
Well, no, they've already been doing that. You steal something and they steal a couple years from you.
Right. Right.
You commit a sexual act on somebody, you rape somebody, fucking cut his penis off and give him a pussy or something.
Well, I suppose that's one way to look at it.
That is one way.
I mean, people aren't scared to go to jail nowadays.
That's what it.
But if you think about it, when someone commits a crime, I don't think that the average, unless, I mean, sex offenders are in a different category. So let's take that out of, because I just don't understand them. I never will. I worked with them years ago, and there's a reason I didn't do that long. But most people who are committing a crime, now don't forget, buying your drug is a crime. Possessing your drug, so driving home with it in the car with you, that's a crime. When you're doing that, who's thinking, well, shit, I could go to jail for this?
Using
You're
your
not
phone to
thinking
get the
about
drugs.
that. Using your phone to get the drugs, right.
Holding
All
your
you're
phone
thinking
while you're
about
driving
is,
on the way to
I
get
am
your
sick
drugs
as
is a
hell.
crime.
I need to make a call, and I need to make a pickup right now. So
So you're saying majority of the crimes that are committed are for drugs?
I think that, yes,
Well, yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely.
If you look at 70% of the prison population meets DSM criteria for either mental health or substance use disorder.
Go to the source. Get the fucking drugs out of here.
Well, then I guess we're gonna overthrow the government then, because
Right.
I mean,
is it
it's
get
all.
the drugs
but
out of here, or is
but
it
it's not-
treat the drug addiction?
but it's not, and it's not just street level
I
drugs
mean-
either. It's pharmaceuticals as well.
Absolutely.
I've met more
that's a
people that
huge
have
topic that you can
that
get
have
into.
pharmaceutical addictions, and it's wide range. It's not just specific to benzos or opioids or whatever. It's pharmaceuticals in general. And they market that shit on TV. So like, take this Flonase for your sinuses, and then go take this Claritin for your allergies, and then go take, and people end up actually with like what they call toxic exposure syndrome or whatever it is, because you have
take
all
one
these
for
different
one,
things,
one
because you're
for
taking
another,
one for this and
one
one for
for
this and one for
Right.
this.
I thought
and it
you were-
all builds up in combination. And
You're
all of a
taking
sudden-
one
I
for
can't
something, and then the
scroll-
side effect, you're taking one for that.
Right.
Seriously
And you know
thought
what?
Nick was going to say toxic shock, and I was going to be
I-
like,
No,
"Whoa,
no,
buddy,
no,
that's
no.
tampons.
that's not
That's
the right
tampons,
thing."
yeah.
No, but you're right.
I don't
you're
use
right.
them anymore.
I can't scroll down Facebook without ads for Vyvanse,
Yeah.
Adderall, and it's like, hello, do they know that, like, I'm trying to avoid that specific drug?
I get
you
I
know?
get Facebook surveys all the time. Have you seen any ads recently for Courvoisier, Hennessy, cognac?
I was
And I'm like, what
I
the-
looked it up. I didn't look it up, but I seen something on Facebook where cannabis is pretty much shutting down the pharmaceutical industry.
That's
Like
gonna
they're
be,
losing a lot of money because of medical cannabis.
Yeah, because a lot of people. So you got a lot of people who thoroughly believe that marijuana is the answer to every one of their problems. And I mean,
For some people it is,
getting
and for some
stoned all
people it
day
isn't.
might very well cure
Yeah,
every
I don't
problem
know.
for some people. I don't know, that group of people is
just relax,
they're-
man.
they're buying out the medical
Well,
cannabis.
there's a huge
medical cannabis
lobby,
supply, and
a
it's
huge
just-
lobby.
It's dropping down because people are illegally able to get weed, so it's more accessible now. So you got states that are actually giving people weed because they're on opiates. Like states are actually giving people a medical marijuana card to keep them from doing opiates. Like
Well, there's been other benefits too. Like I know in Colorado they were able to, from profits from selling medical marijuana, they were able to cover the cost of like free lunches for kids in school.
right.
You know, so like there is
Well, and their homeless population also increased significantly.
true.
We can
No
we
one
can
talks about that.
But
we
that's
could get into a whole thing about
Right, that could-
all
that sounds like a
stuff.
whole nother
Let's stay
episode
on
right
topic.
there.
Let's
All
keep it to now. Back to prison reform.
Okay.
But even before all of this, prison reform has a long history in the United States, and it all began with our nation's first prisons. Nothing starts without the base. The base for everything here is prisons.
Was that I was going to say, is that Northampton County or?
Actually, it may be very close to
Philadelphia.
Because you got to remember, our first colonies were right there in that area. Declaration of Independence
True.
was signed.
It
right
is
there.
one of the oldest prisons.
Yeah, and it is one of the oldest prisons.
I think it is the oldest.
No, the oldest is in
Northampton?
Philadelphia. We're going to discuss that.
Yeah,
Oh,
Philadelphia, I think, is the oldest.
Yeah.
So, from the earliest prisons in the United States, reformers have struggled with the problem of how to punish criminals while also preserving their humanity. How to protect them while allowing prisoners to re-enter society after their sentences end. How to satisfy crime victims' desire for justice and revenge while also giving convicts a second chance to live freely and abide by the law. So, from the beginning, they've been working on reform. Like, that's where we're at.
From the beginning.
From the
and,
beginning.
And now, how long has it been?
Well, it changes. It changes.
Well-
like I said before, it changes with every different generation that comes
They're
into it.
slow
There's
as
different
fuck.
types.
Right, and the different types of changes as well. So like some of them have been better for prisoners, some of them have been better for the society. They've changed, like you said, each generation. So like sometimes they come in and they're like, okay, well maybe we were a little harsh on this, so we're going to back off on this type of sentencing for these type of people. And then some people come in and they're like, listen, I think we need to start hanging people, and we got the electric chair now, and so there has always been some sort of reform, but it's not always necessarily been good either.
And then came the 70s and the 80s with mandatory sentencing.
The mandatory
And that's
minimums.
when mass incarceration skyrocketed.
Yes.
That really took off like during the crack epidemic.
Yes.
You
in the
steal
late 80s,
some,
early
The war on
90s.
automatic,
drugs.
5 years.
Right.
The war on drugs. And just
Well,
because it was
it's
crack
le-
cocaine,
back in the day.
Right.
there was a harsher sentence. I mean,
People were getting like 10-year sentences for holding a gram of cocaine at that time.
Yes. Absolutely. Which is
There-
absolutely ridiculous.
In the beginning, it says that there was over 200 crimes that in England the Queen was serving as punishable by death. So when we came and created America, the prison system that we came off of was, if they fucked up, kill them. So these guys basically came over here and were like, all right, we got to change some things.
There'll be a lot of motherfuckers dead right now.
Well, that still kind of held true though, especially like when they were pioneering the Old West. Like if you had a problem, you went out and you shot each other, and that was the end of it. Like not many people, unless it was like a continuous, like where you were a serial killer just going around shooting people.
Now, if you look at it like this, if you have a bag of weed and you're slapped on the wrist and you get a fine for it, what's the odds of you doing that again? You're gonna fucking do it.
You're gonna
again.
do it.
Right.
Yeah. Now, I think their system is like, all right, he has a bag of weed, let's throw him in jail so he doesn't do it again.
Well, listen,
That's their logic of looking at it. But
I think economic standpoint has a lot to do with that too. So like, somebody that has, the means to pay for whatever they want to pay for, right? So like if I come to you and you've got a lot of money and I say to you, well, listen, that bag of weed that's a $50 fine. and you look at me and you say, no, that's not a $50 fine. It just cost me $50 to have it. You understand what I'm saying?